Welcome to Nintendo World Report's coverage of E3 2014. Again, it's 9 after day 2, just like the previous video. We're going to talk about Miyamoto's two new projects, Project Guard and Project Giant Robot. These were two demos that were shown off towards the rear of Nintendo's booth. They still seem pretty basic, but Project Giant Robot is a game where you play as just that, a giant robot. You extend your arms using the left and right analog sticks on the gamepad, and then you swing your body using the gamepad's motion controller. Everything's real slow and painful because you are a giant robot. Project Guard is a game where you control guns attached to 10 cameras spread throughout a maze, and your job is to prevent robots from breaching your maze and reaching the middle of it. It's kind of like a tower defense game where you have one on the TV, you have all the screens for each camera, and you have to try to watch everything. And on the gamepad, you have a map where you can select the individual cameras to control and then shoot. The idea of these two projects was to show off the kind of gameplay that you can have using both the TV and the gamepad at the same time. And I wanted to speak to Justin and Neil about A, about how they think those succeeded, and B, what their thoughts on were those games individually. I think we'll start with Justin this time.
Well, with Project Giant Robot, you start out, you can pick different customization options for your robot. In the demo, they don't seem to really do too much. There's not really a difference from what I was told. And then you walk around, you try to knock things over, and it's really, like you said, it's really slow and hard to control. I lost most of the time, to be honest. I'm sure it takes some practice, but you pretty much... Yeah. Oh, yeah. They told me it didn't do too much in the demo, so don't tell me I suck. So I'm using my waist to turn it, and then I'm just falling over as I bump into things. And you use the two control sticks to actually extend the arms, and once you let go, they come back. You knock into things with your fists and try to knock them over, but there's also a mode, I don't know if you saw this, where you can actually shoot a laser on some of the levels, and you get like a first-person view on the gamepad, which I thought was the most fun part of that. Everything else just seemed impossible to control.
Yeah, Johnny was actually successful at that game by building a robot where he stretched the head to its maximum length and just had a big, long unicorn horn on there, and just used that as a counterweight. It was goofy and ridiculous, but it was somewhat successful.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, you were saying about how how you customized your robot didn't really matter, but it did, because like if you were to make one with a big dumb goofy head, then you'd be really top heavy and probably more prone to falling over. But I think you're also like a little bit stronger in some regard when you have kind of more mass.
Right. During the demo, the individual showing it was saying, "Oh, well, it doesn't really matter in the demo. It'll matter in the future game." But I made big giant duck feet and found that my big giant duck feet dragged on the ground. So it did matter. They just weren't.
Yeah, that's what the rep told me anyway. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, maybe the individual pieces didn't do it, but the way you shaped it, did change how it worked. And I don't know. I had a lot of fun with this demo. It was kind of like dumb and fun in a tech demo sort of way, as you were moving around like a fool, like trying to go with the punch and then lean in like that. And I had a lot of fun with it, and I thought the kind of, even if I failed, it still was a good time. The only thing is that I don't really know, I guess, how you make a full game out of that. I know that, Justin, you and I had talked about earlier about how maybe that's the kind of game that we see with the second gamepad, because having two people playing that locally would probably be a blast.
Yeah, like I said, it definitely needs a multiplayer mode. 2 gamepads is a possibility, maybe online, but even still by itself, it might be part of some sort of package with other games similar to it.
So, real quick before we move on to Project Guard, do you think it did a good job of showing off the gamepad as a unique peripheral, as a game you could not implement on another system?
As much as I want to say yes, I kind of have to say no, because the one thing that you're doing that requires the gamepad is doing the movement where you have the momentum with the punches, and I don't really see how that couldn't be done with just a Wii remote.
I agree with Neil there. The Wii remote could have done the same thing. The only part that would be different is that one level where you'd actually use the gamepad to get a first-person view and shoot the laser at your enemies as well. But that was only one level of, I think, the 5-level demo.
Right, and even the laser wasn't that effective to begin with.
Yeah.
So Project Guard, the tower defense-ish maze, night trap-inspired laser shooting game, was much more of a gamepad intensive game because you're trying to control the cameras through there. I guess real quick, we'll go back around. What were your immediate thoughts on that game?
At first, I got really, really confused and lost. I played the demo twice on the. They have 3 difficulty settings: easy, normal, and hard. And I figured, oh yeah, I watched someone else play this. I'll hop into normal, and got absolutely wrecked. My second time through, it was a lot more successful, and I think it's just kind of the learning curve with that game because what you're doing is you have the game on the gamepad. You kind of have like a map, top level map view of where all the cameras are, and occasionally you'll get dots of where the robots are, unless they're a stealth robot. And on the TV screen, you have the main camera that you are looking at that you can move around and interact with, and then you have all the other cameras, and I think there's 10 in total.
10 or 12.
Yeah, maybe 12. And you'd have those arranged in kind of like boxes around that center camera, and then you'd have to kind of keep an eye out for when robots would show up there, and then switch cameras, and you could have cameras disabled. And then you could, you might be scurrying to move cameras around so that way you fix a patch that you have. The goal of the demo was just to kill a certain amount of robots, not all of them. But the one thing that I guess they were kind of emphasizing, especially I guess today with the demo, was getting people around you to kind of shout at the screen when there was a robot on the number 1 camera, everyone's shouting 1. And it kind of just made it really frenetic. And I kind of see what they're going for is kind of having that party atmosphere. But I feel like that's a game that would work better if they, I guess, made it more of a solitary experience.
Yeah, yesterday it was just the booth rep screaming, today she had a microphone. So, yeah, it was rough.
Well, I didn't have a problem with the screaming. I actually found that the crowd interaction helped me play the game. I did it on normal once, beat it on my first try. It's the stealth robots that don't appear on the gamepad when you have that top map view. So when the crowd was screaming, look at this camera, it was normally because of a robot I couldn't see just staring at the gamepad. So it really helped me out, and if I were playing that game, I'd probably want someone watching my back there.
So do you think, go back to the initial question, do you think that the gamepad integration for this game actually sells the gamepad in a way that it wouldn't work on another system?
I definitely do. It really did feel nice to have the 2 views, and it gave a nice feel to it that you wouldn't be able to do on any other system except DS, I guess. But as far as home consoles go, this is the way to do that type of experience.
I guess you mentioned sells the gamepad, and I think that might be the important phrase here, is that, yes, it is a game that can only exist with the gamepad,
Correct.
But does it sell it to people?
Yeah.
No, it's just kind of like a cool tech demo, and I think that's kind of the problem with, not the discussion we're going to get into right now, but the Wii U gamepad as a whole is that a lot of the cool things are like, oh, that's a neat thing I want to see for 5 minutes, as opposed to that's a neat thing I want to sit down with and play for 20 hours.
Right. The immediate response I got out of these was these are the kind of things I felt like we would have seen at E3 2010 when they were showing that wire.
Or 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where they had these gamepads that weren't fully productionalized units, and they were still trying to trot out ideas. But ultimately, this is 2014, and we've had this thing at 4 E3s by now. So it is kind of weird we're seeing these things now.
The one thing that the other Miyamoto project that we didn't see at all is the Star Fox demo. That apparently was way cooler than these 2. But the one kind of curious thing to note is that on the top of the cameras for Project Guard, there was the Star Fox logo, unmistakable. And so maybe the kind of conspiracy tinfoil hat theory right now is that maybe those 2 games are going to be involved in whatever that final Star Fox product is whenever it comes out.
Right, and the Star Fox, because we haven't seen it, all we have is what's been written about it and what Nintendo said. The Star Fox demo does appear, well, Nintendo's not said much anything. What's been written about it, the Star Fox demo does appear to be very heavily gamepad-centric by the people who have played it. Unfortunately, that list does not include us.
My problem with that whole analysis is if these 2 new Miyamoto projects, Project Guard and Project Giant Robot, end up being part of Star Fox, then Nintendo at E3 is touting 3 different games as new Miyamoto projects, and it's really only one.
Right. I almost wonder if they've adopted the Star Fox logo just as like, this is our gamepad test, and ultimately Star Fox is the only thing that may come out of that as a full productionalized game. Or maybe these 2 come out as eShops, and that's the real final game.
Or maybe they're both part of some mini game package.
But I think that's going to have to do it for these two because ultimately there's not a whole lot to say about them right now.
I think we said it all.
Yeah.
Project Giant Robot's super weird. You make big, giant, weird robots, and Project Guard is what it is. I guess is the best way to describe it.
Weird tower defense.
Yes, exactly. It's a weird tower defense night trap
It
game.
was fun though.
Yeah, it is life as a security guard.
Both are fun.
Yep. So, again, thank you for watching, and that'll do it for us. You can see more on these games at NintendoWorldReport.com.